Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ghost and Spirit series. Promised I would go ahead and do another video here in this series, and I'm probably going to do one more for this go around, so that would make 4 videos in total. Technically I've done more because I added some special edition videos, 2 of them within this series too, so I'm technically over the usual mark of 5, but at least with regards to this one I wanted to add it in because it has to do with a very fascinating tale of sorts involving the execution of a prisoner and essentially what led to the creation of not just one ghost but 2 ghosts because of the circumstances involved. Again, another tragic series of sorts when it comes to not the execution but at least how that came about. And so very fascinating stuff. What it has to do is the Gibbet Moor Ghost that apparently still haunts a location called in Baslow there in Derbyshire, England. And as I mentioned, it's mainly because of the ghastly way that this guy was executed, which created that ghost, and then B, the tragedy involving why he got executed that essentially created a second ghost. So quite fascinating stuff. People still say apparently there are screams heard from this guy because of the ghastly way that he was executed. So here's all the information. There's not a particular date as to when this occurred. I don't know if it was in the 1700s or in the 1800s. Based on what I was reading, it did make it seem like it was from a past century. I don't think in the 1900s, so if I had to guess, probably in the 1800s. There's a lot of nameless people here with regards to this tale because a lot of the information has been lost in time. But here's what occurred. During that particular time period, there was a form of execution called gibbeting. And gibbeting is essentially taking someone and putting them in some kind of cage harness of sorts. You're looking at a picture or drawing of it here. And this is what's considered a quote-unquote body-hugging cage. And the whole purpose of gibbeting is several things. Number one, it'll create a stopping of movement of the person's body, which you would think, that's not much. But what happens is whenever the body stays still for apparently a long period of time, there's a cramping of sorts that starts spreading throughout the body. I think either the muscles get strained, the muscles get cramped. Imagine going with something like that for days on end, essentially until you die, and then you see why that becomes a form of torture. And then on top of that, because of the restriction, the severe restriction of the body, it also allows that body to essentially be at the mercy of anything the environment throws at it. So let's say there's a severe cold coming across the weather. Too bad, because that person will essentially stay out in freezing temperatures and can do nothing about it. They can't hold themselves to warm themselves up. They can't do anything as far as finding clothing or any other type of cover. Nope, they are out there for the weather to do as much damage as it can. And then also, it's not just the environment, but it's also wildlife, because apparently this form of torture also is meant to attract wildlife, the carnivorous kind, the scavenging kind, either through the form of crows or maybe even other animals, those that can reach up high, because these gibbets, as they're called, are usually suspended pretty high in the air, I guess to ensure that there's nobody that can tamper with it. Maybe someone that's a friend or someone that knows that person trying to essentially set them free. No, these are very, very high. But if an animal can get to it, then that person is left at the mercy of that animal. And this is where it gets pretty gross, essentially picking that flesh apart. So imagine let's say a set of crows landing on one of these things, seeing that there's nothing really that this person can do, and then they have a feast. They essentially eat this person alive as is. So it's a slow, drawn-out death for this condemned person. And then finally, when all is said and done, the idea is all that's left at the end is just pretty much a skeleton. So whether this is a true form of punishment or an inhumane form of punishment, That's for another set of debates, but at least that was the world of gibbeting. Now, how it ties into this Ghosts and Spirits video is this. During that time period, again, when gibbeting was happening, there was a vagrant who apparently did something very, very bad. He was out begging for food one night. It was a long, cold night. He was really, really hungry. This guy has no name. His existence, his identity has been lost in time. But he came across a cottage there in Baslow, and when he knocked on it, begging for food, a lady of the house there, she had just finished making breakfast. Maybe that's how he caught whiff of essentially what was happening. But when he knocked on it and she opened the door, apparently he was so hungry, like so absolutely hungry, that he was begging for food right then and there. She told him no, that she will not feed him of any kind, that there was no food at all. Obviously he was seeing through the lie because of the smell that that was coming from that home. And so because of it, he forced his way into the house. It seemed like she objected to this, was stopping him, trying to prevent him from taking over. This just infuriated more and more. Maybe from his standpoint, he was thinking, I'm a hungry man, I'm a vagrant, how can you do something like this, stop food from being given to me? Well, it turned very, very fierce very quickly, because it was at that point, the way the story goes, that he grabbed a boiling pot of fat, I guess, that was being used to cook the food, because it was bacon apparently that she was doing, and he forced that fat, that boiling, scalding fat, down her throat, maybe as a form of punishment for what she was trying to stop. Clearly, this was so severely damaging to her that she was scalded to death. How he was found out, I don't know. Maybe the screams of her did it, but he was eventually arrested for that crime and then sent for murder. And then the way his murder was going to be carried out was this form of gibbeting. Well, on the night that his gibbeting started, that's when the cold started. That's when I guess there was rain, and then also because of his tightness in that cage, the muscle cramping set in. Well, he began to scream. He began to scream and scream and scream. I guess this seemed to catch some of the people there off guard, that they were not expecting him to do so much anguish. Well, there was apparently some Duke of Devonshire that was nearby a house. It seemed like he was some pretty high up politician of some sort. No name given to him either, just like no name was given to that poor woman that was scalded to death. Well, he heard what was happening, and he was so distraught over those long nights of just the vagrant just screaming and screaming in the gibbet, that he passed a law that essentially banned it thereafter, but not before this vagrant being the last one to die by this method. So once this guy died, this vagrant, whoever he was, by gibbeting, then that was it. He was the last one. I think this is actually the picture of the post where he was hanged. Well, cut to a couple of years later, up to the maybe couple hundred years later, and sometime in the 1990s, there was a hiker by the name of Jane Townsend. She said that she still heard a set of quote-unquote unearthly, horrifying screams emanating from that post. So could it be this guy, his ghost, this vagrant's ghost, essentially haunting that location, still reliving the very last set of days where he had all this anguish beset upon him? It could be so. And other people still state there that they hear those unearthly screams as well. So if you ever are interested in trying to catch something paranormal, you go to that place. It's called the Gibbet Moor, and when you visit there, if you're lucky enough, then again, that's in Derbyshire, England, then you'll have a chance to hear the echoes and the cries of this vagrant and his ghost after so many years. So that's Ghost A. Ghost B has to actually do with the woman, that poor woman, the one that was scalded to death, again killed essentially by having boiling fat placed down her throat. If at that location, that cottage that she was at, apparently it's still there to this day. It's a location, I guess, that has passed through time and people still use it. People state that when they're in the master room of that cottage, they see this thing, either a woman of some sort or someone that looks feminine, sitting by the bedside in that master room. But she's not doing anything bad. Not like like say the vagrant ghost that's creating all this havoc. No, in this case, she is actually there just giving what's called a soothing, calming presence. Even so, there was one person, a guy by the name of Edgar Osborne, who stated that he was bedridden by illness in that house, but yet he felt that when he saw this thing, that it was creating something soothing, like it saw and it noticed that he was very ill, and so it wanted to make sure that he was comforted enough to try to, I guess, convert the illness to health, something along those lines. So could it be her is essentially using her new, I guess you could call it afterlife, to try to create good? It could be, who knows, but those are the tales at least tied to some of the experiences that they've had with the second ghost. So that's it. What do you guys think? This Gibbet Moor Ghost, whatever this thing was that still haunts it to this day, is it the long lost effects again of this pretty harrowing execution that was done back then? Is it something else altogether? And then also, what about the victim's ghost, that poor woman? Does she still haunt that cottage as well to this day, trying to I guess create some good based on and a complete opposite of the horrifying days, the moments that she had before she was killed? It's up to you to decide. So if anyone has any experience or heard some more tales, more experiences with these two set of ghosts there in that location, that would be really great to hear too. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.